These are the 15 players that I think will form this year's FPL template, so let's get guessing with some player price predictions. Welcome to the Gianni YouTube show. Hope you guys are well. We now know the fixtures. We think we can have a good stab at the prices, and we can go, of course, off last season's form to have a go at forming the 15-man template. So without further ado, let's get cracking. Guys, if you fancy hitting those buttons, like and subscribe, that'd be so welcome. If you're new around here, welcome to the channel. Loads of pre-season content planned, so more reasons for you to hit that subscribe button. So look, let's start with the goalkeeper. I'll go just on the 11 and then we'll do the bench at the end. And I think Leno at 4.5 million is my prediction will be the go-to budget keeper. We often like budget keepers in FPL. Of course, you can go for a premium, a 5.5 or a 6 option, a set and forget, or rotating pairs. I feel like we might see Leno with a 4 or a 4.5 options. Now, Fulham are, for many, top of the fixture ticker. They've got great opening games. 3 of the first 5 are at home. They play a couple of the newly promoted teams. They play Man United first, then it's Leicester at home, then they go to Ipswich, and then it's home games against West Ham and Newcastle. Leno scored really well last season. He'll also clock up the save points and has good bonus points potential as well. This is what you don't get necessarily from your premium goalkeepers. So Leno in there at 4.5 is my prediction before we start making our actual teams. So let's have a look at the back line. Now the back line, I think we have to start with last year's best defence by a country mile. On all the metrics, Arsenal come out on top. Of course they do. Of course they do. Arteta has his team on lockdown, so we're going to have an Arsenal defender. Now, they're all going to be more expensive. All of them will be more expensive. The starters, when we look at Gabriel, Ben White, Saliba, Raya in goal, maybe Zinchenko, Tomiyasu stay the same, but the main men, 3 of the back 4, all have price jumps. So I'm going to say Saliba at 6 million. This could be Gabriel or Ben White at 6. Maybe one of them even comes in at 6.5, but I'm going to go Saliba at 6 million. I think he's Arsenal backline representation will be so popular, won't it? Then let's go next to him at the Newcastle backline. Now, I have been looking at the fixture tickers and Newcastle rates so highly as well. In fact, if you want to look at a fixture ticker, I do recommend Fantasy Football Scout. You can search by defence or attack on their ticker, which is really useful. Check out the Scout members area, link in description. So look, Fabian Schär alongside him. Eddie Howe, again, his teams, since he's been at Newcastle, have always ranked really good for defensive performance. Good in attack and defence, to be fair. But Newcastle, I like their opening day fixture. It's at home to Southampton. Many will predict a clean sheet there. Then it's Bournemouth, Spurs, Wolves and Fulham. It's a good run of 5 games. And Schär always offers that goal threat, not only in the air, but good long-range strikes. And we've seen at the Euros for Switzerland, Schär looked really good. So I hope he comes in at 5 million. If he does, I think he'll be a pretty template pick. And alongside them, Jared Branthwaite. Sean Dyche teams. Every year we say it, don't we? Like, you back Sean Dyche teams to defend well. Now, when we look at the defensive metrics this season, and I'm going to have loads of shows this pre-season on attack, defense, and I'll show you way more data. This isn't going to be one of those data shows, but when I do show you that data on defence from last season, when we look at clean sheets, when we look at goals conceded, when we look at expected goals conceded, Everton will come out in the top 5 of all of those metrics. That's outstanding, like for a team with players at 4.5 million. Now, Branthwaite started the season at 4.0 last year. FPL got it wrong. It should have been 4.5. He could come in at 5. I'm hoping he comes in at 4.5, and I think he will do. If he doesn't, there will be Everton representation in the back line at 4.5. So Branthwaite at 4.5. Does he even stay at Everton, or does he go to Man United? Who knows? But for the time being, Branthwaite at 4.5 for me is going to be an easy pick. And then I'm going to go for a back 4. This is going to be a 4-4-2 lineup. And the reason it has to be a 4-4-2 is we're squeezing in expensive players, expensive premiums in midfield and attack. Therefore, we need some lower price players in the 11. Now, there's more lower price good defenders than any other position. So I'm going to go for Ian Matson at left back for Aston Villa. They've just signed him. This is a club that have very good left backs. But Matson's been signed to be the number 1. They've paid nearly 40 million for him. Dortmund wanted him. He did really well at loan at Dortmund. Of course, got to the Champions League final where, the Champions League run he played really well, especially in the semis. Chelsea offloaded him. He attacks at will. He can play wing back, and Villa often play with wing backs. He can even play in the front 3. And I am really interested to see where he's used at Aston Villa. I think he'll be used as a wing back, but I think he could come in at 4.5. And if he does, he'll be an absolute steal. Now, again, we know from last year, Villa under Emery keep clean sheets. Especially, I like their home form. So Maatsen, I think, could also be in. Many will be looking at this lineup going, makes sense for Cher and Branthwaite and Sleeper. But Maatsen, well, I just think if he comes in at 4.5, he'll raise some eyebrows. So that is the back line. We know, of course, who's in goal. But this is where it gets really exciting. This is hopefully why you're watching, to see the midfield picks and the forward picks. Guys, thank you for supporting me pre-season. I've got, as I mentioned, loads of content, so do hit that like and subscribe button. If you fancy hitting the notification bell when you subscribe, you'll know when I drop loads of videos on a weekly basis, probably 3-4 a week for the next couple of months. Where shall we start? I tell you what, before we give you a name, let me just tell you, in midfield, I think we're going to see the biggest price jumps that we've seen in a long time on 3 midfielders. We are going to see a huge price jump on Phil Foden, the biggest price jump we've probably ever seen in FPL on Cole Palmer, and we're going to see a massive one on Anthony Gordon as well. Now, from those 3 players, they don't all make it into this 11, although I think all 3 are going to be so popular. I can't fit them all in because of price, so I'm going to show you 2 of them in this 11 and reluctantly leave one of them out. Before I do, though, let's just start with the most expensive option that I haven't discussed yet, and he will, I think, be the game's second most expensive option. Behind Haaland, we'll have Mo Salah. Same as last season, but he's going to have a price drop, isn't he? Mo Salah was 12.5 last time out. Did he always perform like a 12.5 option? No, he didn't. I think he'll come in at 12.0, and if he does, he'll be really, really good value. Now, what's really important about Mo Salah is he's had a summer off. And many of these guys we're talking about, they've been involved in the Euros. Some will be involved in the Copa America. Mo Salah, time off. The rest will do him good. We don't quite know what Liverpool will look like under the new manager. We do know he's likely to play Salah high and wide on the right-hand side, as always. I think Liverpool go into the season with a really, really good hope of a big start, because the fixtures are so good. They are top of the ticker, right? When we look at, I'll show you the fixtures ticker at the end of the show, but do you know what? Let's do the fixture ticker now, shall we? Yeah, okay. So look, I'm going to refer to them as the big 8. Okay, top 6 has been a thing in the past. I'm going to say now the big 8, because there are 8 teams in this league. They might not finish 1 to 8, but they'll probably all finish in and around the top 8. But they are the teams that have the big name players with the big prices in FPL and the popular assets. So it's Liverpool, Newcastle, Man United, Villa, Chelsea, City, Spurs and Arsenal. These 8 teams are in the ticker alongside me here, and who ranks out on top? It's Liverpool. This is another reason why Mo Salah is going to be so popular. So it's Ipswich, Brentford, United, Forest, Bournemouth, 3 of the first 5 at home. Okay, so when we look at these 8 teams, before we speak about the midfielders in depth, when we look at these 8 teams, there's going to be representation in my 11 pretty much on all of them other than 2, I think. So I've got a Liverpool player. I've got a couple of Newcastle. Look how high up they are in the ticker. Man United, the jury's still out. Maybe I'll swerve depending on prices. Bruno and Mainu are front of mind depending on price. Aston Villa, there'll be a player in, as we've discussed. Chelsea, I'm going to go with a Chelsea player. There's going to be 2 Man City. Probably no Spurs just yet. And there's going to be an Arsenal player. So this is the ticker at the moment for the first 5 games. Screen grab it, use it. I think Liverpool have to be on our radar because of this. And who better to pick than their talisman? So let's go back to the team and see Mo Salah in it. So I think he has a small price drop. He did achieve his 200 points total, but it's been Mo Salah's worst performing season last time out, I think, since he joined Liverpool. Now, he did, of course, have the AFCON. He did have a couple of injuries. He still performed well. 200-point seasons are great. So will he see a price reduction? I think he might see a small one. At 12 million, I'd happily pay that for Mo Salah. If he comes in at 12.5, I'm still likely to spend the money. If he has an increase, I think he'll really struggle to squeeze him in. But I expect a drop, knowing this is one of his worst seasons, if not his worst, at Liverpool. Of course, he had injuries and AFCON to contend with, and he still achieved 200 points. So Mo Salah is in. He gives us a great captaincy option early on as well. We've got to remember Man City and Haaland go to Stamford Bridge, whilst Mo Salah goes to Ipswich. I think many will captain Mo game week 1. So we've spoken about Mo Salah. What about the other 4 midfielders? Should we work down in price order then and start, well, with last season's main man, Phil Foden? I was an early adopter. If you've watched my shows for a long time, you'll know I absolutely love picking Foden in FPL because when he's been on the pitch in years gone by for City, I've always seen him as a huge eye test threat, and he's always been in my team. The data hasn't always backed it up. The minutes haven't always backed it up. Last season saw the minutes, the data, and the eye test all coming together to produce this phenomenal FPL asset, and that's what I think he'll be next season. Can you squeeze in Foden and Haaland into the same 11? Maybe tough. I've gone for Foden here at 9.5 million. That's a big price increase. I think he'll come in at a very similar, if not the same price as De Bruyne. De Bruyne has always been way more. I think De Bruyne could come down to 9.5, same as Foden. But then if you're going Haaland too, you're spending way over 20 million. That's a fifth of your budget on the Man City attack, who, by the way, don't have the best of opening fixtures. We saw in the ticker, City from those big 8 were ranked 6th. So it's going to be an interesting one. I think I still go with both those City names, but Foden for me just has to be in. And at 9.5, he's going to be super, super popular. So alongside him, at slightly less money, and remember, we've only got 100 million to spend. We can't have them all, and something's always got to give. I'm going for Cole Palmer. Now, if he's more than 9 million, I'm going to struggle. And there is every chance Cole Palmer comes in at 9.5 or he comes in at 10. I've gone for 9 million Cole Palmer. Now, let me know in the comments if you agree with this. Many will say he has to be higher, Gianni, what you're doing. I'm just going to... The reason I'm being fairly conservative, and look, 9 million is still a lot of money, is because he plays for Chelsea. Now, Chelsea aren't consistent, haven't been consistent or consistently great for a very long time. Now, we don't know what Maresca's going to bring. Maybe they hit the ground running, but knowing the pedigree of Maresca, yes, he's got the pedigree, former Pep Guardiola coach, sure, we like that. But we can't forget also, he's never been a manager in the Premier League. So I think they'll see Chelsea as kind of middle of the road, similar to last season, edges of European places. And if they see that, can we really justify a real top-end 10 million asset? I don't know if we can, knowing that's so hot and cold. One thing that is consistent, based on last year, is Palmer's individual performances. His team might not have been, but he has been, which is why I think he'll be 9 million plus. I hope he comes in at 9.0. If he's more, we might struggle to squeeze him in, or it will be Palmer or Foden for many if you want Salah in your team. But look, we've got all 3 of them, but this is where things have to drop now. I think the 4th midfield spot for me has to be a 5.5 million option. This is to make 100 million work, which means I've got a 5.5 midfielder in my 11 in the shape of Kamada. Now, he was working with Glasner at Frankfurt. His goal scoring record was brilliant. He was one of the most exciting sort of wide forwards in Europe a few years ago at Frankfurt. Now, Lazio paid big money for him, and things didn't work out in Italy. They've sold him to Palace. He's very much been seen as you could argue, an Elise replacement. He offers a little bit of creativity that, say, a Jordan Ayew doesn't when Jordan Ayew steps in for an Eze or an Elise. So I think Kamada's going to work his way straight into the 11. Now, pre-season minutes are going to be important. If we see him getting them and he looks good pre-season, I think he could be in many teams. Of course, many will be watching this going, what are you doing with him in your team? But name me a player who's going to come in at 5.5 that you think is going to be an outstanding asset. They're 5.5 for a reason. There is no guarantee. Now, last season, at this sort of price point, we saw the likes of Anthony Gordon start the season. We saw the likes of Cole Palmer at the start of the season. You never know. There's going to be 1 or 2 little golden nuggets in there. Can we find them early? Kamada might just be that guy. If it's not, it'll be someone else at 5.5. We'll find them. There will be plenty of options, just perhaps not the most exciting options. Now, Palace have good fixtures, a great manager. They ended the season so well. They're an attacking team, so he is definitely on my watch list. It's time to pick our front 3, or should I say front 2, because we can't afford 3 great strikers, but I don't think that matters too much. Guys, thank you for hitting the like button, and so many of you are subscribing as well. Reason to subscribe is I've got so much pre-season content planned. So let's just get the elephant in the room out of the way. Haaland's in this team. There'll be many that punt without Haaland, but this is about... This isn't my team. This is predicting the template. And I am sure, because of his price, because of fear, because he's good, Haaland is going to be in every FPL team. Now, the big question will be, how much is he? I think he comes in at 13.5 million. There's an argument to say could drop to 13. There's an argument to say could be 14 million. I don't think a player's ever come in at more than that. For me, Haaland at 13.5 feels about right. Remember, he gives us that captaincy option. Last year, he was 85% owned at times. And even when he dropped and he was injured, he still dropped. He was 60, 70% owned. Haaland's going to be in over half teams, no matter what price he's at. So Haaland's in, let's say 13.5. With regret, there's no good fifth midfielder or expensive fifth midfielder, and there's no expensive third attacker. This is a 4-4-2, and it means I can go for a player at 8.5 alongside Haaland that offers a brilliant... He plays in a really well-functioning team. He didn't play in the Euros or the Copa America, so he's had a summer off, and he ended the season so well. And that is Isak of Newcastle. Yeah, Isak, who's in the thumbnail for this video, 8.5 million, I think he comes in at. I think he was 7 million last season. He started the season at 7. He's, of course, going to go up in price. We saw in that ticker, didn't we? The Newcastle fixtures are really good. They are second only to Liverpool from that big 8. So Southampton on the opening day, and then it's Bournemouth, Spurs, who aren't great at the back, and then it's Wolves and Fulham. Those first 5 games, there is an argument to double up on an Anthony Gordon and an Isak. I can't afford both in this team, therefore I've gone with just Isak, and I've got Share, remember, as well. But I think in my team, I might even go for the triple up because of those fixtures. And of course, because Isak, I love the fact he had the summer off. I think that really helps some attacking players, or it might do come game week 1. So Isak is in at 8.5. That's pretty exciting. And then alongside him, we've got to think about the bench. So this is a 4-4-2. Let's just refresh again with those fixtures before we see the bench. So the reason I'm so invested on Newcastle, or I probably will be for my team, from those big 8, we can see in the ticker, they are second only to Liverpool. Then we have United, who do have good fixtures, but maybe we're a little bit edgy on United because of the run-in from last season. Villa rank high, as do Chelsea. Then it gets a little bit tricky for the likes of Man City, but you could argue they're fixture-proof. Then Spurs, and I think Spurs may be swerved because of the fixtures, and then Arsenal. We should give a few notable mentions. Who's not in this 11 before we do the subs? Well, we just mentioned Spurs. Heung-min Son isn't in the 11. Again, I think he'll be popular. Ollie Watkins isn't in the 11. Of course, Ollie Watkins will be really popular, but he could be 9.5, 10 million. And he deserved that price point. Remember, I think he outscored Erling Haaland last season. Other notable mentions... I think we've given a midfielder and a forward, so we have to give a defender and a goalkeeper. Jordan Pickford, I think he'll be 5 million, maybe even 5.5, and because of that, we'll swerve him if we can get an Everton defender at 4.5. But then also Gabriel. We've only got one Arsenal defender in this team, Saliba, Ben White, Gabriel. It could be any of the 3, could even be a double up, but of course they're all going to have price increases. So some notable mentions there. Let's have a look at the bench, shall we? In goal, I'm just going to put a question mark. This could be any 4.5 million goalkeeper that rotates well with Leno. So again, when we're picking goalkeepers, it's always those rotating pairs. It's always Leno's got a nice home fixture, goalkeeper 2's got a bad away fixture. But then the next week, well, goalkeeper 2's got a really good home fixture. He plays Ipswich and Leno goes to the Etihad. And you just think about those rotating pairs. I'm not going to spend too much time on rotating pairs until all the player prices are out. The 4.5 goalkeepers we will get, I would suggest, from the 20 starting goalkeepers in the league, we will probably get 5 to 10 4.5 options, I would say. Quite nice that. At the back, in defence, I'm going to just put a 4.0 question mark. Again, this is an invisible player who will be 4 million. Most season we pick a 4 million defender. He often sits third on the bench. In years gone by, we've had a few beauties in there. Last season, we had Jared Branthwaite. Brilliant 4.0 option. He was starting every week. He was scoring goals. A couple of years ago, you're all thinking it. You're shouting at the screen right now. Lord Lundstrom from Sheffield United. He was playing as the number 8 midfielder, listed as a 4 million defender. He was great fun. There will be an option. eyes on pre-season scouting and views on this channel to let you know. In a couple of weeks, I'll do an episode on the best budget options, including the 4 million defenders. I'll also touch on 4.5 midfielders, of which I'm certain, again, we're going to do another couple of question marks here, both in midfield and up front on the bench. We're going to go 4.5 midfielder, 4.5 forward. It's a proper budget bench, but if we get a couple of good options, I think there'll be an obvious template pick there. So I've sat on the fence a little bit with the bench, 4 question marks, but you've got the price points covered. This is 100 million total spend, and I think this team might just be possible. It's of course at risk if Haaland is slightly more or if Palmer is slightly more. But Salah could be slightly less. Salah could come in at 11.5. I don't think he will. Foden's going to be 9.5. It's tough to penny pinch on this team. This team, I think, will either come in at 100 million or it will come in at 100.5 or 101. Let's see. I don't think it will be under, though. Guys, I hope you've really enjoyed this video. As I mentioned, there's loads planned. Keep your eyes on the channel. As always, thank you for watching. Drop a comment, and on the way out, like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time.